So this is a video on how to paint a latex prosthetic. I'm trying to aim for a sickly, poorly skin tone and obviously with blood effects. So it's obviously a character makeup, it's not real. I've not really got any proper reference pictures on something like this. I can only go off of other people's artwork or just artwork in general, or looking at other skin tones and bruising and cuts. So I'm taking Temp 2's Vein in shade 319 and I've put it in an airbrush. So I'm using the vein tone to bring out the contours of the prosthetic. So I'm going in any depth areas, any creases, and anywhere I want some background colour. I'll also create fake veining with it and a mottling effect. And I'll be using the airbrush sometimes closer, sometimes further away. And I have diluted this product with IPA. Whenever I do skin tone, I nearly always start with blue vein effect. It's almost like painting the skin in reverse. If you think sometimes the mask looks a little bit different, it's because I am switching between two. And obviously no paint job was ever going to be exactly the same, or I didn't need it to be exactly the same. So then now I'm going in with the same product, but now I'm splashing it on using a dense, thick, bristled brush, which has been cut down, so it's making it thick. And then I'll get quite a lot of product in the brush and then splatter it. I can sometimes go closer, sometimes further away. I don't mind if it can be large splatters. I don't mind if it's smaller, because this is a background colour. And I do like that it kind of mottles the skin some more. So now I'm going in with the Necromania Liberty shade. And I'm using this as my kind of blood tone shade, but I like that it looks a little bit more bruised, which is the effect I want for obviously this character. So doing the same technique with this shade, I'm basically adding another layer of colour, and it will start to add more depth to the areas I want it. It will start to add more mottling to the skin and some slight veining. I really love this colour for lips and for kind of bruise effects. I'm going into the ridges of the prosthetic, so what's meant to be like it's where it's cut and sewn together. And I could kind of pull at the latex and separate it to get right in the groove. I could tap away any excess and it's just going to add more texture. That's the beauty of this kind of paint, it can wash away quite easy. It's as pigmented as you need it. But yeah, it doesn't cause too much damage if you go wrong. And you can always add a bit of IPA on a sponge and wipe it away if need be. Also going around the ridge there, and it makes it look a little bit more 3D. Just looking at reference pictures of anything similar to a cut and a slice will help when painting something like this. I really love airbrush because it can be fast. Obviously this has been edited and sped up, but I do love that I probably painted these masks within 2 hours. Sometimes I go over the same areas I've already done, just adding more, because again, it's all about layering. Sometimes the thinner layer you can do to begin with, the more you can build it up, not have to wait for it to be like, because it can be too wet in between. So it gives it time to dry, and then you could just repeat steps and go over. A lot of the time I'm just using the prosthetic and the design of it and the detail and bringing the details out. I'm adding the shading where it needs to be. So now, instead of using the Lividity as the speckle colour, I'm going in with the blood tone from Dashbow, the Ultimate FX blood tone. Fluffy brush, fluffy but hard. So repeating the same steps as before. Gone from using the airbrush to now splattering effects using various brush sizes. And this really starts to layer up the colour now and bring warmth to it and really make it more skin-like. Blue and blood tone kind of products layered just look beautiful for skin effects. And you can apply your extra in places that you really want to bring out some warmth. See, it looks a total different prosthetic now already. So then the next shade I'll go in with is the Temp 2 Dirt and shade 353. I like going in again some more areas, so like the nose, deep bits of the mouth, and I like to kind of drag the effect down a bit as if dirt, and then later on I go over with blood. Again, it's just adding the layers, it's adding the depth, it's adding all the different colours. Just make sure whenever you're using any kind of airbrush products, you change them like mad before you use them. So just re-adding it in similar areas, just building up the colour, building up the depth. I know I said depth probably way too many times. Bringing out the contours. Adding any smudging dirt kind of details in place that I want it. Because it's not really meant to be a clean design. Now I don't want to go with too much brown. But I do like to add a little bit for contrast. You could probably skip this step, it's not really needed. Sometimes you can add enough definition with your previous colours. Now going in with Prime Yellow Temp 2 and a sponge. I love these sponges from the range. Dabbing in the Prime Yellow, it's like a sickly infected colour. And I love how this creates that mottling textured effect. Again, it's like layering up the skin. This is going to be background colour, so it will not look as yellow soon. Going in with the Necromania palette from Skin Illustrator, using the Yellow Corpse to try and do a similar thing, just building up another depth of yellow. But this time it's not as bright and neon and sickly. It's a little bit more borderline skin tone. But again, it's just building up the layers. trying to not cover everywhere as well, not the whole area needs covering. Just in most random places. From the same palette, going in with the Ghastly and Bone shade, and I'm stippling those on too. So now it becomes more like a skin tone, or Caucasian skin tone on top of that layer. So everything else kind of comes a background colour. And then going in with the brushes again. So spraying now. So it seems I obviously have a pattern where I go from airbrush to spraying on, or sponge effect to spraying on. And I do a good few layers of this. Really want those colours that I've done previously to be in the background of this kind of pale overcast. Obviously you can customise your skin tones depending on the person who's wearing it. Going in with a dried blood colour now from Temp 2. This is one of my most favourite products. I just love the colour of it. I love how it dries and sets. It really does look like dried blood. And they do an aged blood as well, which is, oh, it's lovely. They really can make masks and stuff like this, or effects, look really gross. Perfect for zombies. So again, similar format, just repeatedly going over similar areas. Like I've said before, it's all about adding the depth, it's all about adding the layers. Some places with this I will drag it out and just make it look like smudged blood, trying to not be too neat and too precise. Again, just using the prosthetic and its definitions and its deeper areas just to bring out, and basically contouring. Having a prosthetic with, you know, decent details is almost half of the work done. So now I'm using perma blood. This can't be used on the skin, but it's brilliant for costumes. And this dries wet looking. So I'll put some in a little shot glass and I'm just pouring it on. You can use brushes, you can use sponge, you can use what you want, but I like the effect of when it's just poured down naturally. Sometimes I mix it with IPA before I do that, but I did it this time and I kind of regretted it, so I started to spray it with IPA instead, just to try and get a natural flow, a natural drip. And that's it. Hope you like it. I also sprayed it with Kryolan Fix Spray after. You can always set it with acrylic